All right, and welcome back. So, Wakili, let me ask you the question of public participation. So we are talking about the issue of the threshold. What about it?
I think first and foremost, we need to finally enact the public participation bill. And the reason why I say so is because a lot of the decisions that have been made by the executive have been overturned in court for failure to meet the public participation threshold. And that notwithstanding, when you look at this impeachment process, public participation is very important because members of parliament are first and foremost representatives of the people's interests in their various houses. Having said so, when you look at what other countries consider when they are impeaching a president, it is not just an exercise where you impeach someone on grounds of crimes committed, but this person must have committed such gross violation of the Constitution that they have fallen out of public confidence. And so if you were to apply that principle in this scenario, it is very important then to involve the public to understand whether, one, they agree that the crimes that have been committed or have been allegedly committed by the deputy president have caused such a fall in public confidence that should warrant his impeachment. So public participation is very, very important in this exercise.
Yeah.
Yes.
It must be a very trying moment for both arms of government, the National Assembly and the judiciary, because both two bodies must balance so that they can have some equilibrium point where the political aspect and the legal aspect meet. But then still, where do we draw the line between the two now?
I suppose the difference here would be that I think that Senate has a greater responsibility because it is at Senate that the matter is now heard. They are given the benefit of reviewing the evidence, and then they deliberate based on the facts and evidence, and they give a conclusion. Yes, so the threshold at Senate, the expectations at Senate are higher than they are at the National Assembly.
But actually, most people are thinking about the National Assembly, not even the Senate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Wakili, what do you make of this as well?
I would want to say that it's not just a trying moment for the legislature and the judiciary alone. The executive is in this whole thing and very deep in it, because remember, we are dealing with the presidency, and when we are dealing with the presidency, we are dealing with the executive. And even as we are dealing with the executive, we are also dealing with the general political, ramifications that will come with it. So it's a whole, concoction of so many things that will not only require that Kenyans pay a very keen interest to the both houses of parliament and the judiciary alone. But then it will be a very interesting scenario, and Kenyans will be really looking out at how the executive is going to play out. Let's say, for instance, that this impeachment motion goes through. If the impeachment motion goes through, then it would automatically mean that the president has to then appoint a deputy president. And you see, that one speaks to the executive. And then, so the question of who then replaces Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua would come in from what region and so on and so forth.
That's a very important. I'll come back to that one later on.
Yeah, and so it is my point that the focus, as at this point, should not only be to the legislative wing of government or to the judicial wing of government, but then we are supposed to look at it wholesomely, because we, much as we are looking at the process at the very initial stage of this process, we would want even to interrogate the whole process until the end of, in case the impeachment motion goes through, what happens. In the unlikely event that the impeachment, or in the likely event that the impeachment motion doesn't go through, what happens? So we are supposed to consider the whole spectrum. We are supposed to consider the whole journey, instead of just concentrating on what is happening right now without considering the ramifications thereafter.
Yes.
Under the article, Article 150, the removal, I'm also seeing the place of public participation here. I don't know whether it was sneaked in because somebody either thought of somebody would go to court and call the name of Wanjiko, you know, the removal of the deputy president, until up to the last bit of it. But then, so this, what precedent do you think the parliament or Kenya has set already under the new constitution?
You know, the new constitution, the spirit and the letter has not been put into effective use by many organs of government. If you look at the finance bill 2023 and 2024, there was more consciousness by Kenyans to participate very effectively and even stop it through demonstrations. And the finance bills have been there from 2013, since when the constitution was implemented. So you can see the taking root of the constitution is a gradual process. And the application of impeachment clause has not been fully explored in this country. And this is the first time that it is coming to the National Assembly in a more thorough way that calls upon members of parliament to rise to the occasion and treat it seriously. Because one, the impeachment process safeguards the rights of the individual under question. And that is why you must put all allegations to full proof. And that is why you're going out there to meet the public for them to give you evidence. If you look at this advertisement, the 9 counts have been clearly written and communicated to the public here. And I am sure the submissions will be based on the 9 counts, full proof. You see, once you accuse somebody, you must prove.
Yes.
So the burden of proof lies with the process from public participation. And you have questioned why the law does not specify that there has to be public participation. But this is common sense. Under the Article 10 of the Constitution, all sensitive public issues must be subjected to public participation. And it is there through the standing orders that really you can't transact major items and issues within the National Assembly, whether pieces of legislations or whether motions, without consulting the public. It is a requirement in governance. To me, this is great gains in our Constitution, because then it gives an opportunity to the public to rectify where things are wrong, like impeachment of an individual. This is not going to be the last impeachment. There will be another. We have seen the censure motion of the president coming on. Nobody is immune to either censure or impeachment. We have seen more impeachments on governors, and we've seen now the beginning of attempts to recall members of parliament. Remember, no member of parliament has been recalled. And that does not mean some of the members of parliament do not qualify to be recalled. They do. But who is there to bail the cat? Can Kenyans understand all these issues, all these provisions in the Constitution, maximize, put it into good use? Because what is the end product? Good governance. So that when you are taking up any public office as a state officer, you know you are subject to impeachment in case of violation of the Constitution, gross misconduct, and generally engaging in open crimes against the people of Kenya. So the Constitution gives the people that opportunity, and therefore how this impeachment will be treated, it should be treated within the guardrails of facts of law, facts of the Constitution, so that then at the end, when it is successful, then people will know there was evidence.
Allow me to ask you this.
And we went through a thorough journey and a thorough process of proving the 9 allegations.
Thank you. I want to talk about
this will serve as a lesson to every state.
Let's talk about the options now here. Wanjiru, look at it this way. So, fast forward. Everything has been done. It's in the Senate, and Senate is now the final judge, and here we are. So 2 sides. He's impeached or not. Let me start with if he's not impeached, if he survives the guillotine. So what happens immediately thereafter, politically speaking?
Maybe before my learned colleague answers that question,
Yes.
you asked a very important question on the issue of public participation, even as she ponders on the question that you've asked her.
Okay.
Under Article 10, 10.1, actually 10.2a. Article 10.2a says that the national values and principles of governance include patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy and participation of the people. It is one of the national values and principles of governance, and that one has to be adhered to. And if you look at Article 118, Article 118, 1b says that Parliament shall facilitate public participation and involvement in legislative and other business of Parliament and its committees. So the issue of public participation is at the core of governance, and the way Parliament conducts its business. And so it is not, it's not an option. It's not a matter of, of wishful thinking. It is a must that it must be subjected to public participation, and failure to do so, the courts have upheld up until the Supreme Court that if public participation is not undertaken in such kind of a process, then the whole process is flawed.
Okay,
yes.
So this goes back to Article 1. Now that you've talked about it and Parliament must adhere to it, the Supreme Court, made some certain rulings. So then it brings Article 1 into action.
Absolutely,
that
absolutely.
All powers belong to the people, including members of Parliament.
Yes.
Okay, I get it.
Yes.
So we talked about the option, Wanjiru. So what option do we have here? He is not impeached. He survived the guillotine and back to square one. So what happens?
I think that presents a moment of deep reflection by His Excellency the Deputy President on how on the gravity of his utterances in public, the seriousness of his utterances in public, his conduct generally, and if he's not impeached. I personally, if I was seated where I was going to advise His Excellency the Deputy President, I would advise him to take a moment to reflect on that and to honestly apologize to Kenyans for certain utterances which he made, though they are not may not qualify to be impeachable. Sent a message to Kenyans that the government belongs to certain people and not to others. So that I expect that to be the action that he takes if he has not been impeached. But if again he is impeached, you will notice that there's not much empirical evidence globally to suggest that this might necessarily cause some political upset, especially if the due process has been followed, if the public has been involved through public participation, if all the channels have been exhausted and he has been found culpable for the offenses in which have been leveled against him. So there's really no empirical evidence of the fact that it might cause any disturbance to society as such. Yeah, but it's a wait and see. Be that as it may, one of the things I'm noticing is that there's an increasing lack of confidence in Parliament to actually represent the people, and I think that the public is skeptical about the reasons why they are doing this, and I think that for a very long time there's been a public outcry for the resignation of persons other than the Deputy President for valid reasons. If we were to even go by the allegations leveled against the Deputy President, it is not the Deputy President who, for example, in the recent past, appointed a majority of people from their own tribe in leadership position. It was not the Deputy President who did that. Yet he is the one here who stands to be impeached for that ground. It is not the Deputy President who threatened to use instruments of power to discipline the judiciary for failure to deliver decisions in their favor that was an utterance that was actually made by His Excellency the President when he stated, and I quote, he swore si ya kukata mboga. Those are utterances that were made in the course of the hearing of the housing fund issue before the High Court.
Yes.
It was not the Deputy President who, despite a public outcry, whipped members of Parliament to pass a bill which the public had rejected. It was actually the President. And so if we are going to impeach, if we are going to bring motions to impeach the Deputy President, then the motion to impeach the President should not be very far behind. And so this can invoke certain certain discontent with the public as to whether the parliamentarians are actually listening to them. When we say it is this person that we want to be impeached, it is this person who we want to resign, you go for the other one. Yeah. So I mean, it can cause some disturbance, but globally there's no empirical evidence that it has caused a disturbance in the democracy of a country.
You know, when we were young, our mother would beat us. You know, who licks the sugar? So the entire household will be beaten. Then you start crying in your room. It reminds me of that. I don't know how we are going to work on this one, because Wakili Biko, you know, the aspect of Murima, now imeguzwa, so to speak. The fact that that motion is now active. And that is what Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President, was against.
Yes.
If you touch Murima,
yes.
If you touch me, the Murima has been touched. Do you think that is the case right now?
It reminds me of the famous Michuki words, don't rattle the snake.
Be ready.
If you rattle the snake, then you should be prepared for the
yes,
for the consequences. Of course, I know for a fact that the Deputy President is aggrieved by the fact that this motion has been, you know, actively brought before the House, that is before the National Assembly. And I can bet for a fact that the relationship between the President and the Deputy President will no longer be, you know, will no longer be the same after this process.
Either way.
Either way.
Okay.
Whichever direction it goes. And politically, you saw when there were rumors that an impeachment motion would be brought as against the Deputy President, he very fast went back to his base and tried to consolidate it in a bid to, you know, just sway, you know, that particular notion, you know, in a way that will be favorable to him. But I can, I'm not a politician, but I can, you know, I can guess, I can foresee that the political relationship between the President and the Deputy President will not be the same moving forward. I wouldn't really want to say that it is irretrievably broken down, because as the politicians say, one day in politics is, you know, is quite a long time.
Yeah.
There's been a move to now have the President consolidate the eastern side of the Mount Kenya.
Exactly.
Yes. So and you've seen politicians moving that direction. And the question of who is the kingpin of the, you know, of the Mount Kenya region has equally come out very prominently in the last few weeks. So to answer your question, it will be a very interesting period to see how then the relationship between the President and the Deputy President would be moving forward, irrespective of whichever direction this impeachment motion goes.
So if he survives the guillotine, I'm looking at a situation where, hypothetically speaking, so he survives. He admits that he will continue serving, but the level of confidence from whichever source you're looking at it will be eroded to some extent, from 100 either to some level. I don't know where.
Well, the effects of an impeachment, whether you survive,
is always grievous.
The effects. But you see, it is not for us to prejudice a process that is being handled by an institution like Parliament. It would be wrong for us to try and project and say, yes, the outcome will be negative or positive. Let's leave it to those institutions to do their bit. And whichever the outcome, the law is there and the Constitution guides the next step. But I would say generally, this to me, this process, we are demonstrating that nobody in public service in Kenya, from the president downwards, is immune to impeachment and is immune to strict audit of the constitution by the people, by whichever means. And this is going to open floodgates for more impeachments because Kenyans will be more emboldened. The assemblies will be impeaching their governors, will be impeaching their deputies, which is okay. The only thing that we need to do whenever there is such an impeachment, it should take the shortest time possible so that it avoids wastage of time and creation of tension, because at the end of the day, we need orderly governance to proceed. And that is why, to me, I think we need a shorter timeline that is good enough to prosecute all the entire processes and empirical, because learned counsel here has talked of empirical science. I am sure some bit of empirical science will also work here, so that if you are guilty even before the eyes of the public, before Parliament votes. It's known that you are guilty, and everybody can see, because the public is also participating in observing,
absolutely,
and making their own judgment. If you are guilty, you are guilty, and the public will say it. What is it that will be transacted in all these 47 counties? It is the public that will be giving their views, either whether you are guilty or not guilty.
So what if? So Sean, just a minute. So what if Wanjiku says now we are okay with it? Positive feedback out of it, will it have any effect on the process?
The results are either
can
way.
Also help me in this.
The results are either way. The public participation,
or the die is already cast.
The public participation processes are not mere window dressing forums. The 9 issues have been laid out, and the outcome can be either way, and this will inform the National Assembly, the process at the National Assembly. So for me, I will restrain myself from trying to think like you. You want to force me to take a decision.
Let's actually think like me then.
Allow the process to take its own life.
Having actively participated in an impeachment process, that is the Sonko impeachment matter, where I represented the County Assembly of Nairobi, I have an experience with this impeachment, in the sense that if you look at the wording of Article 145 that talks about the grounds for impeachment being gross violation of a provision of the Constitution, the extent of how or what amounts to gross violation has not been stipulated in the Constitution. Yeah?
It's general.
It's general. It just says gross violation. And then if you look at limp number 2, it talks about where there are serious reasons for believing that the president has committed a crime. Serious reasons to believe. If the drafters of the motion and if members of parliament have serious reasons to believe, it need not to have crystallized. It just needs to be a belief that there is a serious, that there are serious reasons. On that aspect alone, the deputy president can be impeached. And remember, out of the 9 grounds that have been formulated as grounds of impeachment of the deputy president, you need not to prove all of them. You just need to prove one ground, and the deputy president will be out. An impeachment process at the legislature, at the National Assembly, is a political process. It is one that is being undertaken by politicians, but guided by the law. I can assure you for a fact that if the president did not want this impeachment to even be tabled, the impeachment motion to be tabled in the National Assembly, it would not have been tabled.
Because it's political.
Yes, because it is political. So the fact that the notice of motion has seen the light of day in the National Assembly, it means that it must have been okayed by the president himself. It is a political process, and I can assure you, irrespective of the outcome of the public participation, if the process is meant to proceed, it will proceed. And that one now speaks to the question of the quality and the quantity of public participation.
That is painful to hear. Then what is the essence of having all this That is the question I wanted to ask.
And that is why I'm and that is why I'm saying, Victor, it is a political process that is guided by the law. And the law provides provides boxes that have to be ticked for that process to then be said that the process was lawfully was lawfully done. But then, insofar as the whole process is concerned, the process is being undertaken by politicians. The process is being undertaken in the National Assembly. The process will be determined by the persons that we have elected as members of Parliament, either in the National Assembly or in the Senate, to undertake that function on behalf of Kenyans.
That is, I repeat, that is so painful to hear, because when you listen to Wakili as well, Mwananchi has a word to this, and Parliament is going to spend resources.
Of course it has.
In all the 47 counties.
Yes.
But once it's political,
for a good reason.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
a good reason, yes.
But because it's now political, then it means the voter has got no voice here, because the die is already cast.
Absolutely, and that's why, Victor, I started by saying, if you look at majority of jurisdiction, the most widely acceptable jurisprudence when it comes to impeachment is that impeachment is not just an instrument or a tool used for removing criminals from the presidency. It is actually in combination of a tool that serves as a response to a particular political crisis that has caused that particular person to fall out of favor with the people. And that is where public participation comes in. Secondly, for you, one of the criterias that was set by the Supreme Court for public participation threshold to be met is that public participation is not just an exercise where you call people to give their views. You not only sensitize them on the subject, they then give their views, and you must display a level of confidence that you have factored those views in your deliberations. So it is not just business as usual that our leaders will go back to the village and ask the people what they think about this impeachment process, and the people will suggest, yes, we can see that there could be crimes that the deputy president has committed. Nevertheless, looking at everything holistically, we do not support that these are grounds that should form the basis of an impeachable offense. So I want to believe, strongly believe, that the public's sentiments will be factored in the deliberations of this matter. Yes.
It's quite interesting. You know, when you look at Sosion.
Yes, there are certain things that we must clarify here. Trying to create what would I call hopelessness by saying, oh, after all, it's a political process, so the die is cast. That is wrong. It is in the Constitution, and it was known that impeachment will apply to public officers, mostly who are elected or appointed. It was known. It is not something that is being created now, and we cannot fear calling out and bringing to order our political leaders by filing impeachment motion with substantive facts and evidence, facts of constitution and facts of law. We are not short of legal minds to help us interpret when somebody is outrightly violating the law. I'm sure it is not, Mutuse could be a lawyer, or if he's not a lawyer, he must have been assisted by some legal minds to make this interpretation. And these are our human resource within the country that we use to run the country. So really, trying to create hopelessness that, oh, after all, this is a political process, so all these forums are just mere window dressing, Victor, is wrong.
Okay.
These forums are serious, and this is a serious process that we are dealing with 9 serious issues.
I have a question for all of you.
Against an individual.
I have
Number
a question.
2,
yes.
the other thinking that for this thing to go to the National Assembly, it must be approved by the president is wrong. The motion has been originated by a member of parliament, Honorable Muthuse, with his own signature.
Did you hear what Wakili
Who is
said?
an other, listen. No, I had, and I've been in that space. I've signed documents in parliament. The fact is, Honorable Muthuze is an adult member of parliament and has developed this ground. And the issue of the discussion of impeachment is not something that started the other day. It did not originate from State House. It doesn't have to. These are members of parliament who are conscious and they're able to do their own things in their own way. Look at the signatures, 292. There was no forum to mobilize. I think let us also be civilized and keep the name of the president and the president out of it. He's the head of the executive. He doesn't run the judiciary. Those are facts.
But he's the party leader. He's the party leader for UDA.
And the members of parliament, and the members of parliament are independent individuals who can take their own decisions.
Allow me to say this.
I don't think when you are exercising your conscience as a member of parliament.
And the question of timing is also, I think in the fullness of time we would want to consider the question of timing of the movement of this motion for impeachment of the deputy president.
Okay. I have a question for all of you, a quick one. So what options do you think the deputy president have? To resign or to fight until the last end? One, if he resigns, what happens? If he goes until the last minute, what happens? Biko?
I doubt if the option of him resigning is on the table. If I was his legal counsel, I wouldn't advise him to go the option of resigning. I would want, because you see, if he resigns, then he would be moving a vote of no confidence against himself. He would be saying, well, it is true. I suspect that the charges that have been brought against me, the nine charges that have been brought against me, may be true, and I wouldn't really want to go full throttle, or I wouldn't want really the whole process to go to the end. I would advise him that he stays put. I know for a fact that he's muscled quite a good number of advisors, both legal, political, and otherwise, to advise him on the whole process. Let him follow the process to its conclusion and see what becomes of it. From where I sit, him resigning shouldn't be one of the options that is on his table.
Okay.
Yes.
So Sion, if he resigns, what happens? If he's impeached, what happens?
Well, I don't think I'm qualified to talk about the rest of the concept. But once you are impeached, the president will appoint a new deputy and forward the name to Parliament for approval.
Yeah.
And once Parliament approves a new deputy president, the next thing is to be sworn in, and there will be a new deputy president. That's a fact for sure.
I see the way you've answered that question. You're very smart on it.
That's a fact for sure.
I see the way you've answered that question.
No, I'm not being smart, but I'm saying what the Constitution says.
Okay.
I'm saying what the Constitution says.
Here's this.
And Victor, it will be wrong for us to try and predict exactly what will happen.
No, look at the future.
We are prejudicing the process.
If he's impeached,
let the process
Wakili
take its
Biko
own life.
here handled Governor Sonko's case. Governor Waititu was also impeached, right?
Yes.
And we've seen what happens to such officers if they get impeached. One of them, that they cannot hold any public office.
No, the fact of the law and the Constitution is that once you are impeached, you are not eligible to hold any public office anymore.
Very good.
Almost for the rest of your life.
Do you think that is what the deputy president wants for himself?
Unless that impeachment is discharged by a court of law.
Okay.
That's a fact for sure. So there is a reprieve for relief of such findings through the court. You'll go and fight it out, but of course that will be too late. Someone will have already assumed office. Things will have moved on. You can be cleared after a number of years because the court process also is slow. The wheels of justice grind slowly. It doesn't move faster.
Let me hear from Wajiro.
If I was seated as the deputy president's legal counsel, I would tell him to fight it all the way. I have read the allegations, and I've read them, and I don't believe they meet the threshold, having looked at what has been previously decided in Kenya in regards to impeachment of other public officials, and also having looked at the jurisprudence worldwide. I would advise him to fight it to the end. There are grievous repercussions to him resigning at this stage, as my colleague says. you know, and as you rightly put it, he stands to, I mean, it's the end of his political career then. He can no longer hold public office. So this is a reason enough for him to go all the way and let the both people and the houses decide. Having said so, I think it's also important for him to do so that we can set a good precedent in future, because the body of law and principles which we gather from this exercise will be used for someone else in the future.
Okay.
So it is very important that this process goes all the way so that we see the reasoning of Senate. What is the reasoning of Senate in regards to the issue of impeachment of a president in future or a deputy president in future?
All right. We are running out. Actually, we are out of time. But I'm tempted to ask this question. So the entire process got until the Senate and all that. And of course, it has to land on the desk of the president to sign. What if the president says, you guys know, we are not going to sign this. We have to work with the deputy president. We are elected as a pair. Lazima tumalize hii safari. You can imagine the political landscape changing. I don't know.
You know, Victor, you're trying to think many things.
Yeah, Victor's really trying to pull our leg.
I'm just thinking that the entire process.
Different things. That is forcing political decisions to influence the process.
I'm just trying to think 2 weeks in advance.
Now, to
Senate
me,
does that.
To me, we don't play with impeachment. We don't bring it to use it as a political weapon. No.
Okay.
You bring it to use it to strengthen governance. That is my belief.
Thank you.
And that is why the process has got to be fair to the accused, and the facts must meet the threshold of the law and the Constitution.
Let's be fair.
Because you're putting somebody's career at stake.
Okay, we are out of time already.
But Victor, yes. The Constitution under Article 146(7) says, of course, 145, not 146. 145. If at least 2/3 of all members of the Senate vote to uphold an impeachment charge, the president shall cease to hold office, or the deputy president, because it says with necessary modifications.
Can you take that again?
Article 145(7) says that if at least 2/3 of all the members of the Senate vote to uphold any impeachment charge, the president, and in these circumstances, the deputy president shall cease to hold office. So it becomes automatic. Immediately 2/3 of all the members of the Senate uphold the impeachment, the deputy president will stand impeached and he will cease to hold office. So the president it has nothing to do with the presidency. It will stop at the Senate, and once 2/3 is, that is it.
I stand guided.
And the speaker shall gazette.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
The finding of the Senate.
Yes, the finding of the Senate.
And once it is gazetted, that ties the hands of the president. That's what I'm saying.
And it will be declared that there is a vacancy in the office of the deputy president.
It is not like in the previous dispensation where you would wait for 1 o'clock for the president to sack you or not. This one, right, in a minute. But this one, it will take a whole 2 weeks to prove, to bring evidence.
Oh my goodness.
And you are out of office, and as a president, you wait for that process.
Wajiru Madhayo, advocate of the High Court of Kenya, thank you so much for joining us. Wilson Sosion, former NAT Secretary, as well as Biko Ashoya. Thank you so much, guys. Let's take a break. GMK continues after this. Good morning.